Hello and welcome to Epic Loot Radio. My name is Brian, and joining me is the illustrious and wonderful co-host Chaos Prime Zed from YouTube. We've been doing this podcast for a while, and today it's just the two of us, like old times, as we barrel towards the future of Outriders just 1 week away. On today's podcast, we actually have two big pieces of information to kind of discuss and dissect. We might tap into Avengers because I know Chaos, he streamed it and then he went back to Outriders. So that tells you the state of Avengers right there. But we're going to be focusing in on today on Outriders, 1 week to launch, dev update. We're going to be talking about cheating. We're going to be talking about what you can do now. Are you busted? and more. And then we're also going to be talking about New World. New World has also just released a massive overhaul to combat, to their systems. And there's a lot to like in the post. Now, the notes themselves are long enough that you could probably make a 3-hour video going over them. And being that it's also an alpha game, we were not going to go over the notes, but we're going to talk about generally kind of the theme to their quests and what they're working on. And if New World even has a shot, I personally hope so. I'm always hopeful, but that's my intro. Welcome, Chaos. How have you been? What have you been playing, my dude?
I've been amazing, man. I've been doing really well. Lots of videos. I've been playing quite a bit of Outriders. I have dived back into Avengers to see what it's all about. And I've been doing quite a bit of a Persona 5 as well. Still chugging along on that Persona train.
How far are you in Persona right now?
About 24 hours.
Okay. And it's
about a 100-hour game.
Yeah, it's like that's a 100-hour game. So you've kind of bitten off a quarter of your Persona work. I am obviously very interested in the rumors that it could be coming to Game Pass. And
I hope it does. It's really good. It's a weird RPG, but yeah.
Yeah. With Octopath Traveler now in Game Pass, it makes me as a player who doesn't have a lot of time all the time. Sometimes I just, like as gamers go probably, like sometimes you just have a lot of time to games. Sometimes you don't. This week has not been a gaming week for me, but it makes me look at Project Triangle Strategy and, Bravery Default 2 and wonder, do I really want to play that on my 30 FPS Switch, or is that something that would be if I'm busy enough? And it's not like if I wait, if I'm just too busy, maybe that's just going to drop on Game Pass, and I'll just play that on that same concept with Monster Hunter Rise. Speaking of Rise, our other co-host Rory, he is playing Monster Hunter Rise today. Be sure to go check out his live stream if you get the opportunity. I'll try to include a link in that for the description of this if you are curious, but today's the Monster Hunter launch day, and that is what is consuming his time. So he will be back with us next week. Also next week on the podcast, we got Vulcan coming back, and then we'll be bringing in the goal for Epic Loot Radio is to have a nice, awesome bench of like content creators, people who can collaborate, easily pop into these, depending on what their schedule looks like. So I thank everybody and also chat for being here as a part of this. If you guys haven't heard, we're also on like Spotify, Apple iTunes, all that stuff. Those links are in the description of the videos on YouTube. So if you guys like audio only, you can listen to these in the audio. And please give us a review. Like lots of content that we make, and we appreciate. And just the fact that you either watch us live or you check this out after the fact. But so as far as what I've been playing this week I've been really kind of into Guild Wars 2, but I've been into it in the sense that Outriders is on the first, right? Like I haven't decided, like I didn't want to go bite off something and get consumed into something and then know that I was going to and then Outriders is on the first. So I've been enjoying it kind of as just a return to Guild Wars, relearning the game itself. And honestly, I'm at the point where like, this has got to be something I need to spend more time with. And so I've been really enjoying my time with Guild Wars. I finished every guide for Final Fantasy XIV's controller guide series, except for Machinist. I'm going to go revisit Machinist. But last night I was playing a little bit of White Mage, got my best parse in Final Fantasy XIV. And and I'm just itching to play more Outriders. I jump in. I don't know if anybody does it like this because I feel variety is a way that you prevent burnout. I occasionally, like maybe once, maybe twice a day, pop in, kill the captain, or do a couple resets, kill captain, see if anything pops, bounce out, maybe 15, maybe 20 minutes worth of gameplay with Outriders. And then I just kind of like, all right, I'll see you tomorrow. Just as a way to see like if I get that random drop. But that's kind of what I'm doing. I did touch Avengers, and that game needs a lot of work. I want I want to like it because there's things about it, and then I start going back. I start having PTSD, and maybe that's probably the wrong and horrible way to say it because people really have PTSD. I start having like it should never have launched this way. It should not have been this game. But they're already coming. They're already planning an expansion to it. So they're already, I think, more committed to it than with Anthem. So they're like there is like maybe they can get it there, and I would love for that to happen. But I've already like I don't know. I don't know if I have enough in me to sit here and root for the game, especially coming in and playing Hawkeye stuff. And it's like from a story driven perspective, it's great. Chaos. I want to go know your thoughts because you even tweeted out like I thought I was going to do this. Clearly, people aren't interested in this game. What do you think?
Well, I started playing Avengers, and I thought, new character, new story. I thought I'd give the game a chance and see how people reacted to it.
Mm-hmm.
My YouTube streams usually hover around 50 to 60 people, which is fairly decent for my channel.
Mm-hmm.
The Avengers streams hovered around 5 to 10.
Yeah.
Which clearly shows you the interest in that game. However, the biggest issue for me was not so much the content. The content is an issue. There isn't enough there. We all know that. We can all see that. And, them releasing the Wakanda update in, at the end of the year,
mm-hmm.
That's way too far away. So there's like a huge lull of a drought there. I know they're bringing in little stuff in between, but it's not enough to keep that player base going.
What would keep that player base going in your opinion?
They need to be releasing new biomes, new areas every 2-3 months, like how 14 do it. I know 14 have a paid subscription, and that's what allows them to continue pumping out content at that pace.
Mm-hmm.
But for a live service game like this that needs to get back on its feet, it needs to be pumping out that level of content to keep it fresh. All you've got is Hawkeye and this Tachyon Rift, which for the longest time has been single player and is going to be multiplayer. As a single player experience, if you're playing this on your own, it's actually not bad.
Mm-hmm.
But as multiplayer, it lacks so hard. But the fundamental issue here is the actual core of the game. It suffers from the same problems, in my opinion, that Anthem did, where the core is bad.
Yeah.
The way the characters feel, the way they control, there's not enough to make them different. The ones that can fly clearly have the advantage over the ones that can't fly. And that divide between all the characters is really bad. I know some characters are supposed to be super strong, as opposed to others like Black Widow.
Yeah.
And Black Widow is my favorite character in the game because she just has the most versatile and hand-to-hand combat. She's the one that has like the best CQC in my opinion, but the others, it just doesn't feel right. The combat doesn't feel right. If I'm hitting someone with the Mjolnir, I don't expect them to get back up. If I'm hitting someone with a Thunder Lightning, especially a robot, I don't expect it to get back up. I know it's a game and it's supposed to have, a semblance of difficulty, but the combat just doesn't feel right. The characters don't combo with each other. They don't synergize well with each other. It's all kind of orchestrated, QTE, and that kind of removes quite a bit from it. Like if you're playing Streets of Rage 4, you can juggle between the two of you and you can get that synergy going. But you don't have that synergy here.
It's one of the things. Go ahead, please.
No, go.
I was going to say, like, comboing off of your point there, it's one of the things that I think when you look at games that succeed in the space, despite like having rocky starts, despite having, some kind of core problem, or even when they have a problem introduced with an update or an expansion, it's that there's an actual real core gameplay. And then the world is like, if you look at the gameplay first mentality, like what makes this really satisfying to pick up a controller or a mouse and keyboard and an experience. And if you have that core, like you can build on that and you can kind of have these layers to where it's like, yeah, I'm not really playing that. But as soon as you come back, you have a really positive experience. Now, I don't know if the life of Guild Wars 2, but having played it back in 2012, having stepped back into it, it's like it's immediate that like the combat and the movement like feel so good. Like that's where I was like, and it could vary by class. I'm not going to sit here and like, oh my gosh, I'm an expert on this game now. Not at all. But it's like, oh, this has got this really core positive aspect that even if there's issues or problems or things that I don't understand, like it's worth it for that piece. I think Destiny is an example of that. Despite everybody who comes in and says like, oh, I hate Destiny, usually, follows it up with, I'm at, 2,000 hours with the game. It's like, well, there was something that kept you there for that, for that period of time. And there's something that will bring you back. Some update, they'll fix something, they'll get their ducks in a row, they'll bring in enough content that makes it worth like that reinvestment, et cetera. Not that every game has that capacity, but you're right. Like when I play through Avengers, like when they announced the expansion, I don't know. I don't want to sit here and like, I hate being negative on the game, but like when you look at it, even if they brought in cross-play, cross-save, like even if that would help out a little bit, that would move the needle a little bit, but hopefully the expansion gives them a time to take a look at their whole core system. And like when it comes from a looter perspective, I don't feel like I'm ever getting loot that does anything other than, increased numbers that I never feel, right? Like that's the thing. I never feel stronger, but I get things that say I'm stronger. I never look different.
You never see it.
Right. I never see the impact on that. I never feel the impact. And then I never even visibly see that because the whole costume thing is its own independent thing. So I don't know. I would hope I would be wrong because I would love to see, that as a series that if they continue to invest in it, all of a sudden, like, here you go.
And it was something I was saying to a friend of mine just the other day when I was talking to him about the Avengers. And I believe there is some truth to this.
Mm-hmm.
As a single player experience, the single player campaign, I'm sure you've played through it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Like amazing. Like if anyone out there hasn't got the game and just wants to experience the campaign alone, and you can find it for cheap, I absolutely recommend the single player campaign. It is amazing. It's got amazing one-liners. It's got everything you would expect in it. It's just really, really well done. I enjoyed it so much I played through it twice. That's how much I enjoyed the single player campaign.
Yeah.
But the multiplayer feels like it was tacked on the last minute. Someone came along and said, right, this game is going to be around for what? 10 hours? 8 hours? Nah, we want this to be like a 200-hour, 2,000-hour game. Tack on multiplayer. Mm-hmm. And it looks like the multiplayer wasn't really thought through. And it was something that was added on the last minute to give it that longevity. And I think that's partially where the problem lies. The multiplayer wasn't... When you're making these games, multiplayer has to be first before the campaign because the multiplayer is what's going to drive you through. Here, the campaign was first, and I appreciate that because I love story, and I love a story-driven game, and voice acting and everything was great. I enjoyed it thoroughly. I thoroughly enjoyed that game. But the multiplayer was tacked on, and you can see that through and through. And that's where it's falling apart.
I think you nailed it right on the head. I think that's the perfect way to kind of transition from that into kind of our gaming really news of the week discussion with Outriders and New World because, and the thing is the campaign, I played it in about, 10 hours?
Yeah, it's better.
So it's like if you can get, like my value would say, if you can get the game for $10, it's absolutely worth checking it out for the campaign. But there's nothing I ever felt a value behind that, in that regard. So let's dive in. We got some Outriders news to cover, guys. If you all want, you can always go check it out on Reddit as well. I covered this in a video talking kind of about my thoughts, but this is a good time for us to kind of get y'all's perspective, also get Chaos's perspective, discuss what this means, the impact of it, and honestly, just be real excited about the fact that we have less than a week. This time next week, Outriders is going to be in everybody's hands, but I think that's really kind of the best time to start with the idea behind the load times, when y'all can start playing and more. So let's start there, Chaos. Xbox preloading is already live. PlayStation should be live probably by tomorrow. We got Steam and Epic is going to be determined by those stores. Regarding launch times, if you're on console, so Xbox and PlayStation, starting at midnight Eastern here in the United States, which for me is a win because that means it's not midnight, it's actually 11 here Central. And then for PC, Stadia, etc., that's actually like at 11 Central AM, like a whole, like it looks like they get a whole 12-hour head start. What are your thoughts here?
I'm okay with the timing. Consoles usually always go live at midnight. It's a bit weird that PC isn't coming live at the same time. They're kind of trying to do it a global set time for PC.
Yeah.
But I also think they're doing it this way because it is crossplay. They're staggering the release to make sure the servers aren't hit as hard, so they don't have servers going down, because they're still going to go down.
Yeah, like at the end of the day, it's going to be hopefully better than the demo. But like I thought the demo went pretty smoothly. It wasn't like down for that long.
But I expect more people to be buying the game than 2 million.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think they'll be ready for that, especially with Game Pass.
Yeah.
Game Pass at the moment has, 20 million subscribers?
Yeah, if they haven't hit 20 yet, they're coming up on it. I
think they've hit it last I read. But even if they haven't, I mean, even at 19 million, let's just say, a third of that is going to jump on. That's a considerable amount of traffic from just one platform.
Yeah.
So I still expect the service to be impacted a little bit, so people shouldn't be surprised about that. But the fact that they're staggering it, I think, will definitely ease. I know it sucks for us PC people because we're going to start 12 hours later. But, for me, I finish work at, 5 BST. So it's perfect for me, selfishly.
Yeah, screw you guys and your complaints. It works out well. Would this change your perspective? Because the question that I've been asked is, would this actually make me start on console before switching back over to PC?
No.
It does change my... Go ahead.
If there was cross-save, absolutely. Without a shadow of a doubt.
It hurts that it doesn't have cross-save.
But there is no cross-save, and if I start on one platform, it's going to be difficult for me to start on another one elsewhere.
Yeah, I think because of Game Pass kind of being kind of the difference maker here is with Game Pass, I can start on that, and I can have like a character on Xbox that I can still cross-play. So like when I'm downstairs or playing with friends, I can have that kind of like that character. Yes, it's not progressing me in terms of my PC character, but then I can easily just switch over to PC. For me, the answer for console is that if I actually get my PC back, which has a built-in capture card, then I will, I'll run it on Xbox. Why not? Like that doesn't seem a problem. Problem that I have right now with Xbox is xCloud, all that stuff. Like it doesn't work on PC. Like I don't have the features that I have on the Xbox One X that I would have on a Series X. And so I'm just kind of waiting for Microsoft to get around to hurry it up with getting my access and things like that. So it is what it is in that regards. All right. So for people who want to know what's changed between the demo build and the last day of the launch build of Outriders. So some highlights. Lots of bug fixes, including mods and some legendary weapons not triggering properly. Balance changes for various items. I actually had some people message me about this, that, hey, like this mod changed a little bit. They changed this legendary mod, and it's 60% less damage or something like that. And it's like, at the end of the day, like, we've only known balance up to level 7, and we know how powerful we can be already at this range. We got to see what the world tiers and challenge tiers bring us. But yeah, I'm not surprised that we didn't see some balance of that. Crossplay, here's what gets me excited. Crossplay will no longer be in beta, and it's going to be on by default. That's a good thing. PC players will actually be able to add cross-platform players that they have previously played with to their friends list. That's massive.
It was huge.
Right. So, hey, boom, friends list. Now, I actually put out a guide on that specific thing. Like, hey, because I remembered how Avengers was messed up. Because with an Avengers, like, hey, you got to get your Square-Enix account set up, blah, blah, blah. So I put out a guide on how do you do that without having to worry about the game. So that way you're not trying to hit that and the server. So if you guys haven't set up your Square-Enix account and linked all your stuff together, I would recommend you go and check that out. You can always check out my Outriders playlist. It's there, but it's like how to set up crossplay. That's going to be something you're going to want to do today, because then you're not hitting it when everybody's all of a sudden hitting their servers. And as much as I love Square Enix, they're still not ready. Like they're still kind of getting there. So, yeah, they're just a tiny indie company. Whatever. You can obviously turn off manual crossplay, but it will cause some issues if you're trying to automatically matchmake with somebody who has it turned on. So just note there's still some issues there, but the friends list thing is massive. DirectX 12 will be the default on PC. They added a quick mark functionality for your inventory, basically allowing you to mass mark items based off of rarity. You still have individual marking, but quick mark is going to be great. Improvements to cover system, improvements to the travel voting system, and they added additional information about internal cooldowns and mods as well. So what do you think about some of these changes that are listed?
The quick mark one is amazing. The one where you can just, tag everything that's common in one go, everything that's uncommon in one go. Once you get to the later part of the game, some of these are still going to drop. But the ability to just one click and delete all is amazing. That is going to save so much time and effort. So I'm really happy with that.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I felt like it was much faster than Anthem's ability to manage all that junk, but I ended up finding that it was even faster on mouse, and so I would actually be playing on controller, and then when it was time to mark, I would just right click on mouse. This is going to save even more time, so I'm happy that they got that added. Any other thoughts on the on changes from demo into live? Because they've been continually patching the demo, which has been impressive.
Not really. The friends list thing is absolutely a game changer for me because it just means I no longer have to keep getting a code when I'm live on stream because the stream usually lags by like a minute or so. So you're just stuck there waiting. Come on.
It's gonna be nice. I hope that it means that friends list also shows them that they're online, because that's one of the things about it. Like, I would play with people, and I love that I could play with people on different platforms. But then it was always but then, all right, like, we always got to keep putting that code. I got to message that code. So if it allows me to see that they're online, I could just invite them, or they could just drop in. That it's going to be the strength of the system in crossplay.
It is worth noting that it's only for PC for now. The console versions will be coming at a later date.
Oh, for the friends list?
For the friends list, yeah.
Oh, thank you very much for that. I didn't actually catch that. So for PC players, you can manage your console friends and more. And who knows if Microsoft buys Discord?
That's going to be great.
It's like, all right, and they own everything. So anyway, regarding post-launch support, they believe they're targeting a day one patch that actually would be a part of the preload, but they don't know yet based off of certifications. So there might be a day one patch, as my voice kind of fails me. The goal of this is to have more bug fixes and improvements with a particular focus on the later sections of the game that we haven't seen. They want to do performance improvements for pacing and stuttering that was observed via the demo, and then chat was also kind of talking about that in our pre-show as well. Now, for camera smoothing improvements, they really want to have that for the different dialogues, and then for cutscenes for PC, allowing us to choose from 30, 60, 90, and 120 frames a second. Series X and S and PlayStation 5 being locked at 30, Xbox One and PS4 being locked will remain locked at 30 frames per second. So they think that the frame rate thing will help with some of the shaky cam, but they did talk about this earlier. That is probably going to be a much bigger update down the road. Let's see here. I'm going to jump in with Johnny Mac here. It says, the inventory management in the demo was one of the best that I've seen over the years. Now, with the changes, probably the best out there. Yes, Johnny. Honestly, when you look at it, and it has also a very Destiny kind of vibe, you can be different, but you don't have to be so different that people have no idea what they're looking at, right? And I like how they have that. It did confuse me for a little bit, because when you click on some of the things, they have different slots. Weapon shares kind of a bag. Your hand held is its own bag, and then each piece of your armor is its own kind of armory chest to draw from Final Fantasy 14 in a way. So regarding post-launch and patch upcoming, they want to have essentially post-launch follow-up and patch and upcoming optimizations. So they're going to have additional pre-planned patches that are intended to address many recently reported issues or bugs coming out of the demo that run into and didn't launch, thus allowing them enough time to implement beforehand. The resolutions for any non-urgent bugs that are discovered were going to be rolled into this different patch. Now, at the point in time, they do not have yet a set release for the patch, but its release is going to depend on the amount of content that they want to roll into it. So they're expecting this to roll out in the first few weeks after launch. Newly discovered severe issues will be hotfixed earlier and separate from this patch. So below are their intentions for the first major, update patch to the game. Controller adjustment options such as dead zone adjustment, acceleration settings, and legacy layouts. Loading time improvements for Xbox One and PS4 consoles. Further performance and improvements for co-op games. Crossplay friends list and invite system across all platforms. There you go. Chaos. And then this will require you to use a Square-Enix members account. Like I said, guys, get on that. Bug fixes to include, for example, lore collectibles bugging out on second characters, and they're going to continue to build on that list. Is there anything that stands out to you? Is this a games as a service?
There's still, well, it's not a games as a service. There is no additional content coming. They've said this multiple times now, and the only way we're going to see future content is through actual expansions. There won't be like the seasonal DLCs that Destiny does. Mm-hmm. If they see that there is enough demand, they will push through that way. A question that was asked on chat by Tyler Meyer, because you made a mistake when you said Series X and PS5 would be 30 FPS. It is 60 FPS for the game, and the cutscenes are at 60 FPS as well. No,
I said for Xbox One and PS4. That's where they're going to be locked at 30. Xbox Series X and PS5 is 60. If I misread that, it said 60 on the screen.
It said 60, but you said 30.
I suck as a human being. I failed you guys. All right, I'm deleting my channel.
The one thing that I will say in regard to the previous section was the old generation loading. They're still working optimizations. So I assume they're still lagging behind, but that's probably not going to be fixed as much as people are hoping, because they're still running on the HDDs. If you want that to be running better, I would highly advise you getting an SSD into your old generation consoles to speed that up a little bit more.
Yeah.
But HDDs can only go so far.
You can only do so much. So then we're going to dive into cheating. Now, item estimation should be going out. We kind of cover that. That's probably going to be, it'll be something interesting ongoing, but if you continue to find your items being deleted, they believe they fixed those bugs. We covered that in our last show. But, if that happens to you, please let them know as quickly as possible. So, regarding some context on cheating, they've reached, or around the time that they reached 2 million players, they identified 200 people who had clearly cheated, basically less than 1.1% of the game's population. So, we can see you, even the person who gave themselves 600 legendary weapons.
Why?
We see you. Like, we can see you.
Why?
I don't know. Like, that's legendary. The guy who gave himself 600. Why 600? Like,
why not 1,000?
I know. Like, why was it that number? All right. So anyway, repercussions. There are repercussions coming. And one of these things made me really worried for a bit. Well, we'll talk about it. Repercussions are account wide, not character specific. That's an important thing to note, everybody. Account wide. You cheated on your Devastator, your Trickster's branded, baby.
It's good.
You will not be able to matchmake with other legit players, but you can matchmake with other cheaters. So,
I love it.
That means it's probably going to take a little longer to actually matchmake in that regards. You can still play the game solo. And in the future, your HUD will actually have a discrete but visible watermark placed on it so that any gameplay footage will show that you are identified as a flagged account. All right. So how do you, being that this game progress carries from the demo forward, you've already cheated, you got the 600 legendaries. How do you stop that from happening? If it doesn't bother you, no big deal. But if it does, you got to delete all your characters. So that way, when you go into the game, you're not carrying over your flag. All right. So what's considered cheating? Here's the meat, guys. Here's what you need to know. Intentionally running the game on PC without the anti-cheat, the EAC, modifying game files to enhance a character's level, skills, inventory, etc. Externally modifying game time to reduce time-dependent features such as vendors and challenges. I am guilty of that. I was testing that out because somebody was saying you could do that. I was like, let me see what this is like.
But did you get an item?
Did I get an item? I don't think so.
So I don't think it will count if you didn't pick up an item.
They said that because they didn't make that clear that this is not being enforced at demo time. but it is enforced going forward. So they clarified that. We were, everybody was like kind of talking because I was like, oh crap. If I get flagged, I get flagged. I'll just delete. But at the end of the day, I did talk and we did get confirmation from, I think it's probably later, that it's like the full game will have the different ESC demo. Anyway, so at the core of it, I wouldn't worry if you did the time mod now, but don't do it in the release game. Using a trainer programmer similar to gain advantages within the game, and using gameplay altering programs such as aimbots and wall hacks will brand you with that permanent mark. So I don't know. I love it. The Scarlet Letter, shame. I'm sure there's because people are like, who would cheat? And it's like, some people find that fun. Game Genie existed back in the day, and you could do crazy things in games that weren't possible. And it was fun and interesting. So that the idea behind it is that I don't have any judgment against those who would cheat, but I love that it's like, okay, if you're going to do that, welcome to this community, you leper.
But, back in those days with Game Genie, you didn't have online multiplayer on your consoles.
Mm-hmm. Very true. Lots of things have changed since then.
I mean, if it's in a single player game, I don't care what you do. Do what you want to your heart's content. But if it's a multiplayer game, just no.
And lastly, before we move into some New World information, Hell's Ranger info. The Hell's Ranger content will be available via your stash to anyone who owns it. So to get the Hell's Ranger, get a pre-order. This does not apply to Game Pass. If you're playing the game via Game Pass, you'd have to. Though they said they could make this available for purchase later, and they said that this is cosmetic. This is more probably because of marketing, because they do, and it is not pay to win. You're not going to break the game with this setup, etc. So it's like. It is a weird thing because they want to give some incentive to pre-order the game, but they also want to be like, you know what, we're not microtransactioning you, we're not doing this. But then it's like, well, this is kind of like something you could pay for later if you still want. I think they're just kind of like having to kind of try to walk a very thin line in terms of what gamers' perception of what is okay and what is not okay. Because there's the never MTX crowd. There's the only cosmetic MTX crowd, and then there's the the whales, I guess. I think that's probably maybe the three categories. Chat will let me know if I'm missing a third category.
I mean, they've already said that these weapons that you're going to get won't outclass legendaries. They won't outclass the endgame weapons. It's just something to give you a little boost as you're trudging along in the early levels. It's fine. I don't.
It's also cosmetic in that regards to have a kind of a different look to your character as well. So
yeah.
Either way, like at the end of the day, I'm excited for this game. I pre-ordered it already on PC. I'm going to have it on Xbox. The biggest weakness of Outriders, in my opinion, is its lack of cross-save functionality.
Oh, it needs it so bad.
Oh, and if they ever get it, dude, I was like, you will sell more copies.
Yeah, I'll buy the PlayStation version as well.
Yeah, I would 100% buy like every version, so that way when I just sit down, I boot it up and my characters are right there. Final Fantasy 14 has ruined me because when I boot up, my characters are wherever they are because they're saved in the server. But that's just me. All right, guys. Any final thoughts before we move over into our New World discussion?
Johnny Mac says, "I still prefer my Street Justice."
Street Justice. Man, that was funny. All right, let's dive more into New World. If you guys haven't seen New World, upcoming game from MMO, upcoming MMO action RPG from Amazon Game Studios. Obviously, currently not the best track record for developers. So we're going to talk about it because I've been following this game. I played in the preview event in August, and I thought like there's something there. Like if you guys go back to the start of this podcast, I felt like there was something there, and it has to be. You have to refine it. You got to polish that until it shines. You got to take that core, awesome, fun aspect and go from there. Have you played this game yet, Chaos?
I've played it a little bit, not much. I only caught the tail end of the alpha when it first came around.
What's your interpretation? What's your impression of the game so far?
So the beginning part felt kind of flat for me. It kind of felt very generic, I would say. I saw like aspects of it that reminded me of old school MMOs,
Mm-hmm.
but which I like. I absolutely prefer the old school methodology, even though I don't have time for it these days.
I like it for people who aren't playing it. Suffer like I suffered, children.
But the weapon breaking, I didn't enjoy. I don't like weapon breaks and stuff like that in MMOs. 14 had that originally, and no one liked it. So I'm really happy that they got rid of that.
Were you there when 14 had underwear that you had to change and you couldn't ever have it
I was there
unequipped?
from 1.0.
Yeah, I mean there was a debuff. There was an underwear debuff.
Yeah, I was there from 1.0, and I thoroughly enjoyed 1.23 actually.
Mm-hmm.
But I think this game, and the game was okay, but it wasn't rocking. Like the way I was seeing social media going on about it, I didn't get that vibe from it. It just felt like another MMO that's hitting the market, that's just trying to get on its feet.
Mm-hmm.
That was my take.
It was really good that they delayed it. And so they delayed it to spring, and then now it's been delayed again. And the official release date, and that's, put in quotes, is August 31st with the beta happening if you pre-order in July. That means it's not like it's a complete opposite of what Outriders is in this regards, where Outriders is like just play our demo, progress carries forward. This one's going off the model of pre-order to try in that regards, which is less risky because you can cancel pre-orders and things like that. But at the end of the day, just kind of note that this studio has yet to prove that trust. So I'm not sitting here like while I'm excited and I'm pre-ordered because I saw something and I hope that they can deliver on it. I'm perfectly fine with wagering I think it's $40 or whatever, to play the game, early and then play it to have it at launch. That's perfectly fine for me. So
have you read the terms and conditions? Because I personally haven't.
I haven't.
Like Ubisoft do a thing where if you pre-order a game for the beta and you play the beta, you can't cancel your pre-order.
Oh, well, we'll have to look into that. So it's a Steam thing though. So it's like, is that a Steam policy?
Even if you pre-order games off Steam for Ubisoft, it is still the same thing. If you play the beta, you cannot cancel your pre-order. That instantly cements your purchase.
Okay, I'll look into that because that would be really good to know, especially in terms of pre-order things. So anyway, my thing is like know your worth in that regards. Feel free to whether you want to wager it or not. I'm in and I'm excited. Now I'm just gonna scroll the patch notes, guys. Like I said, we could probably make a 3-hour long video on these patch notes alone. What I'm seeing here from this is what and we're gonna get into the quest design and stuff like that. I'm just waiting for somebody in chat to show some eyes because like he's still scrolling. Yeah, this reminds me a lot of what I remember from MMOs, even what I remember from like 2.0 and 3.0. Like here's all the stuff that we're changing. Amazon, I get the feeling they're all in on this game. I don't think this is going to be the game that breaks the studio if it doesn't do well because they already working on a Lord of the Rings MMORPG. They've got that license that, and the new CEO who's taking over is like, we are in for Amazon Game Studios. Unlike Google Stadia, we're in and we're going to keep putting it into it. And with Crucible failing, they took that team and they didn't let them go like what Google did. They brought them in here. They're saying, let's go, let's get this game. And I just saw a note where it's like, they're taking in feedback. They are working on this. I would like how that is such an update that would have been like, was that an expansion? Like, was that? No, that's the monthly update that we're seeing for this game. Chaos, what are your thoughts?
So I looked at the first link you sent me. I'm not sure if you want to bring that one
I'll bring that up right now. Boom.
Because that one was the good meaty one. So what I really liked about this one was the fact that they're changing almost everything in regards to the way the quests are done, the main story quests are done, how characters interact. It looks like they've taken a lot of feedback, but they're still changing the game to points where you probably won't recognize it if you played the alpha.
Yeah.
They're getting rid of all the unnecessary quests. They are having quests now up to level 40, but the NPCs are a lot more interactable, a lot more relatable. They're a lot more story driven as opposed to just go fetch this for me and go fetch that for me quests.
They've added voice,
which is really nice. They've added voices to the main storyline quests only.
But they said that, like, it sounds like, if nothing else, they're working to continue to do that and also bring in other languages, which, holy crap. Like, okay, that's one of the things that I felt was missing is like, even if they don't voice the whole thing, just that, hi, welcome, howdy, sir, like just that accent that adds that character, like, I think goes a long way in that, in my immersion into the game and the world. Cause I felt the world was very immersive. The biomes, the like, just the world was so impressive, but then, like, the characters are so flat. And now, anyway, continue.
What this shows me and tells me is when they first released the alpha, they didn't know what they wanted this game to really be.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
They put it out there just to see community feedback. And they got a lot of it. Some good praise, some bad praise, some constructive criticism. And they've taken that and now have pretty much molded it to that feedback. Because what I saw from the release notes from the pre-alpha of what it was supposed to be like, what I jumped in, a lot of what's coming here and from that big list, because I actually went through all of that today when you sent it to me.
You're amazing. This guy is amazing. If you're not following Chaos, his links are all in the description. Be sure to follow this man. I love his content. Anyway, please continue.
I went through a lot of it, and they've pretty much rebuilt the game.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they've essentially done. Every single weapon has been redone. All the weapon skills have either been renamed to something more appropriate or have been given new traits and new stats. It's crazy. They've added armor quests, weapon quests, and they're not grindy or anything like that. They follow a 3-stage process that requires you to go collect certain materials, do certain things, build your weapon. And they've even taken into consideration about the marketplace or how this won't affect. These aren't the best in slot weapons, and they're openly telling you that when you do these like relic armor quests and relic weapon quests, these will never be the best in slot because they want the crafting market to have that spot.
That's exactly one of the things that has really, I think, hurt MMOs in the term of their longevity. In the terms of that theme park design, that having the best stuff drop from the content is great because it gets people to go do the content for the reward. But once the reward is no longer there, usually that's where you see that dip. But that's why I always like that market. If you could go get something from that content, and then whether you craft it and sell it on the market yourself, or you just put the material on the market so somebody can craft and make that into whatever, like, that continues to incentivize that, because then there's always a real world need for currency and having that kind of exchange of goods, which essentially allows players to kind of create their own challenges and quests in a way. Like, oh, I really need to go farm. We did this actually already in New World. We were like, oh, we need to go get some oil. Where is oil? All right, we figured out where oil was. We went out there. We hunted for it. We fought monster after monster. Like, it was just, and then we finally found some spots for oil. We farmed up oil, put it on the market, made a lot of money. Obviously, we didn't continue to do that because we knew that the game was getting reset. So there was no major point in investing all of our time to have that just ripped out away from us. Now, I want to pivot slightly to Trent saying the quote unquote WoW killer in this regards. And then there's another comment with Seth I want to follow up right after this. I just kind of want to I would say, Trent, and anybody, WoW will be its own killer. Like, the only thing that will kill WoW is WoW. Like, and then the label, like Destiny killer, like, that's a curse. Like, when gamers use that, like, oh, this is going to be the game that whatever, like, they in a way are actively cursing that game. So I would think the only thing that can kill WoW is really Blizzard. What do you think, Chaos?
Pretty much, you're only your own worst enemy. Every game is individual and unique to itself. It may borrow traits, it may borrow synonyms, whatever it is, but they are still their own unique game. You've seen the number of looter shooters out there today. You've got Avengers, Anthem, you've got Fallout 76, you've got Destiny, and so forth. You know, they are all under that umbrella, even Division and Division 2. They're all under that umbrella, but you cannot say any of them are the same game. Any of them they're following the same formula, which is why they're in the same genre, but they're so different as as an identity for each one that you really can't say that one's a killer over the other. It's just you play which one you enjoy, and that's it.
Yeah.
If a game doesn't release content, it'll kill itself.
Yeah. Now Seth says, I mean, Amazon's game development has had very poor leadership. They are more just trying to throw their money around and expect a return without a focus on passion.
Agreed.
Yes and no, because
they spent $500 million and have nothing to show for it.
Yeah, they've spent money. So has Halo.
Halo has Halo 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, you're banking on nostalgia. I'm saying that like leadership is a key aspect. We've seen problems within the Halo development leadership. The only time leadership I think ends up being brought up is when like if Amazon comes out and this is a massive hit, that monetary whatever is going to look like genius. Only Amazon could have pulled this off. However, Seth isn't wrong because there's already been reports that there's been poor leadership and issues within the company. My whole thing is that right now that's actually a non-story until the game comes out because gamers will want either who to praise or who to blame, and that's all going to come down to it. We've seen games and I've been in it's always kind of the thing. There's like this illusion of security. There's this illusion of proper leadership. I've been in companies where it's like they praise like the CEO and I'm like, that guy is a complete idiot. Like he stepped in, did horrible things. We did actively what he did not want. We won, but he gets the credit, in that regard. So it's all about passion though. So it's like Seth's comment here is so fascinating and also like really well put together because then the goal of leadership is to empower the passion. And that can come with money, right? Like that can come with essentially, here's what it is. If they don't, if all they have in their meetings, like with Anthem, is just them not making decisions and they're just wasting everybody's time and wasting money. But they got a new leader who's wanting Amazon games to be a thing, and that in and of itself can be a thing. You're going to probably have some. It's interesting that they've obviously had these issues all up into this point. Really what will end up helping that out is if they get a win and go from there. And then it's like,
the way I see this is you need to show everyone that you have faith in your product.
100%.
Outriders development team had faith in their product. So they put out a free demo, which no one expected.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't planned. No one knew anything about it. When the game got delayed, they said, yep, the game's being delayed, but we're going to give you a demo so you can try the game out before you buy. No strings attached. That is showing me that you have full confidence in your product. And that is something that I reiterated in every video that I made when I was talking about it before the demo came out.
Mm-hmm.
If you're hiding your beta behind a purchase,
that
does not show confidence.
Correct.
To me. If you're confident in your product, put the beta out there. Let everyone know that your progress will be wiped. Let people jump in. Try it out. And if they like it, then they can pre-order.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
But if you're going to tell me that I have to pay money to try a game after your record with Crucible, that's already going to turn people off, and that's already spelling disaster. They're going to lose a lot of sales going down that route, in my opinion. They should make the beta. They should do like an open beta for 2 days where everyone can jump in and give it a try and see if they like the experience. Because if they do, they will invest that $40.
They'll go put that money. They'll be within like 30 minutes. Like
because something that you said earlier instantly, lit light bulbs in me, which I haven't seen in a long time. Where you said you went and farmed oil, for example.
Yeah.
Like back in the day in Final Fantasy 11, I would go to Dangraf Wadi to farm beehive chips or to different areas to farm them, then craft them into beeswax and put them on the auction house because I knew they sold really well. So I'd specify like a couple of mornings a week where I'd go do that to fund my earnings because it's like those old school RPGs, which is what this is trying to be, is it requires some effort and some work to get stuff done. That is a old school mentality. So expecting people to dive straight into that is dangerous.
It is. You have to incentivize that, and that's where their quest overhaul could be generally positive, getting people in and guided, and then all of a sudden opening up more and more of the world where you're like, oh, there's these other systems that are actually going on at play. 100% on the terms of like if they have a lot of confidence, then it should be open for everybody to come in
Yeah.
and play and test, and that will help give the best look at it. If they're not confident, then yeah, like you want to put it behind. Really the early adopters and the fans, because there's two things that are working against the game right now in that regards. It's it doesn't exist in a bubble. There's all kinds of competition. Why would I stop playing Final Fantasy 14 and dedicate myself to New World? Well, like, right. I wouldn't, but I'm saying that like, what about it's going to keep me playing it? I believe in a multi-game approach. Like at the end of the day, like I have to play at least 2 games because otherwise I'll just get, it's just not worth my time. Like, no, I gotta play more. The other one is, so they don't have a track record. That also applies to the support of the game going forward. So being that, let's say the game launches and it's good, it's got content, people play it, they're going to step away. Like no matter what, like the articles, like when we talk about like what I believe is kind of real clickbait or just kind of a pointless article, like there's all kinds of pointless things that are posted out onto the internet, have no purpose otherwise just to grab your attention for a brief second. So you'll, no matter what, whenever a new game comes out, especially a popular one, the next thing that you'll see about it reported on, I'm not going to name sites, but they, I'm sure anybody here can fill it out in their imagination who these sites are. Games population drops by 50%. Like, yeah, that's going to happen. It's especially, because we saw it with Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk's population's fallen. They're reporting on the Steam average player count. Who gives a righteous F about any of that information? Only people who are like, oh, it's failing, right? Like you get on the drama trail, and that's also going to work against it. So you got to be prepared not only to launch, you got to be prepared with not just like, don't give me honestly, Amazon doesn't need a roadmap. They need to prove that they can continually deliver. And that's actually what they're somewhat doing with this alpha. If the game comes out on the 31st of August and then and then in September and then in October and then in November and then in December, they just keep hitting that drumbeat. People are going to check out the game. Maybe there's something they want or that doesn't exist yet. Or maybe Final Fantasy 14 Endwalker comes out and they go and play that. But there needs to be an update and needs to be something that's trustworthy and massive that happens to bring them back. If they don't do that, if Amazon just sets this game up for launch and then it's like, all right, our next update is going to be in the spring. Yeah, you'll see all kinds of articles. People are leaving the game, aren't playing. Even Bellular talking about how WoW's population for Shadowlands has dropped in half. Like, I don't understand how that's news. Maybe I'm wrong. Chat, let me know. Am I wrong? Am I just this weird? Like,
I saw that video that you're talking about, and that video was so stupid because
I'll reach out to Bellular. Get on here, and we're gonna call you.
He's talking about a period where the game is in a drought. Do you know what the population of 14 is? I can tell you, it's not as high as it was when Shadowbringers released.
Mm-hmm.
Right, because the game is in a drought, and if there is a drought period for a content, people drop off, they unsub for a while until the new stuff comes back, and then popularity builds up. Mm-hmm. WoW right now is in that exact same position. They're in a drought, and they have been for a while now of a content drought, and they are waiting for a new update. So, the player base dropping by 50%. What did you expect was going to happen? People just don't sign in, daily for no reason. The communities of back in the old days of MMORPGs don't exist. Even in content drafts when 11 was about, I used to sign in and it was like a second family for me when I was playing 11. I played for 7-8 years. I used to play for hours on end. I used to sign in, and the people that were there, the lane shows that we had, that was literally like a second extension of my family. I could talk to them about anything, and it was amazing. I mean, that's the type of community old school MMORPGs brought together. These new MMOs don't do that anymore. So when there's a content drought, it's a drought.
Content drought, but you also have the fact that these games don't exist in a bubble. Your gamer family doesn't have to be just with World of Warcraft. I think that's why services like GamePass, and I'm wondering, we will say PlayStation Plus or Now or whatever PlayStation, and like being able to sit here and say, here is a collection of games, and then the ability to communicate and be able to play, whether you want to live in one game for a whole year or 7 years or not. Like, I think essentially we're seeing that transition happen. I think New World, that's what I cut. For me, the MMO is 11. Phoenix says 11 will always be their favorite MMO of all times. Yeah, mine too, because it's like, it's that persistent world. It's that social capital that like people had to work together. And then now I go to play 11 and I'm able to bring my friends in. There's also the content creator aspect that it's definitely had an impact, where when I play 11, people want to come and play. And so I never have this massive amount of downtime. And so the games have to adjust for us. There's no going back. We're not gonna, like, if New World came out and launched like an old school, hard as nails, you can't solo anything, game, that would appeal to some gamers. That would, absolutely. They'd have a community, but not large enough to sustain the level of continually having kind of updates and support that it requires, because other games are going to come out and they're going to steal your attention away, and you're going to wonder why no one's playing your game anymore. So it's really going to be, at the end of the day, especially back to Seth's point, it's really on Amazon. All of this with New World right now, 100% pass fail is on Amazon. And I would love to see this game succeed, because I'm also excited about what they're working on next, which is the Lord of the Rings MMO RPG. Just walking through this world, like the things that they've done right shine. Like, it's just like, that's insanity. I didn't think that we were going to see an MMO do that, but now they've done some of these things, and I'm just like, all right, just get the rest of this fixed, and they're doing it. Will it be good? God, I hope so. I really would love to have a new, game to sink my teeth into, to also pair with Final Fantasy 14. I don't need New World to be a massive narrative story driven experience. I already have that. I want this to be kind of the persistent world that I can live in. Go ahead, Chaos.
See, the thing is, what this game needs to do successfully is create a community.
Yeah.
Now, one question I'll put forward to you and to the chat, who keep referring back to Final Fantasy 11 as the greatest MMO,
and they're not wrong.
I want you to name me one moment that truly stands out for you during your experience playing Final Fantasy 11. Which one moment defines everything?
Oh, there's I think it's the time I quit.
Outside of that, obviously.
Well, no, it's like the time I quit was so fascinating, because I had I started and I was playing, and I didn't know what it's. So it's kind of a two-part story. Part one, it's all kind of encompassing the same moment. I was playing a warrior. I had no idea what a tank was, or I had no concept of tank, healer, DPS support, in that regards. I just knew Final Fantasy. I love Final Fantasy, and I get to play Final Fantasy online with a bunch of other people. And they kept telling me I need to provoke. Like, you got to provoke the monster. You're the tank. You need to provoke. And I'm like, I don't want the monster hitting me. I'll die. And if I die, I lose experience. Don't hit me. Anyway, so that was my ignorance into this moment of and then them working with me. Oh, okay, here's what you want to do. You've got armor. You'll live. The healer will keep you alive. The rest of us will burn down the monster, and we'll just rinse and repeat. All right, cool. Understand, get the concept. Taking that into switching over to healer, because one of the things I found is that when trying to form a party, I felt like healers were definitely, whenever I was playing, were always in, short supply. So I decided to heal. And I was playing, and I was trying to do some leveling, and it was a snow day. And I was like, all right, I didn't work. I can't go to work, can't go to school. We're snowed in. I'm going to play some Final Fantasy 11 today. This is going to be awesome. I get on, and after about 4 hours, I didn't have a party to play with. And then I was like, F it, I'm done. And that was the first time I stepped away. Eventually, they added the level sync system, which solved the problem, because the thing was that you had to play within the range of other players at that range. So if you weren't if somebody was not specifically in that slot of a certain amount of levels as you, you couldn't play together. Once they added level sync, I was like, oh, cool. We'll just grab you and hey, we'll go back to the dunes. I don't care. I just want experience. I just want a level, so it ended up being something that was kind of a key moment for the my first time leaving. And then the thing that really brought me back was the level sync in that regards. So yeah. Oh, did chat, anybody from chat answer that question for you? Whoa. Thank you, Cameron, for the $10 super chat. Tried adjusting the clock a few times in Outriders to reset vendors. Never got a thing, gave up and went back to legit farming after 170 hours. Cameron, tip of the hat for that. I am going to have to do a full wipe now or place on solo now. So Cameron, hopefully you didn't feel like you needed the super chat to get your question answered, but no, you're not going to have to do a reset on that. So just note that they did not communicate that was kind of a no-go. And so they've already stated that because they did not communicate that rule only applies to the release of the game. Don't do it today. I wouldn't go do it now. But now I would say release of the game forward, don't do the clock vendor reset, and you'll be good to go. So thank you so much for supporting that. We've almost I don't know if you know, I'm not, please. Oh God, I'm going to, anyway, I've already started this. It seems stupid not to finish. But yeah, the podcast is my, what I call my loss leader. Cause for the software and for the time for editing and for hosting it for the audio. Thank you. You and Kaz with your super chats have made this month break even. So I really appreciate the super chat, but don't feel like you'll have to do that. That is completely, I do this because I love talking to you about games and with my friends. So, and then, yeah. Anyway, go ahead, Kaz.
So the reason why I asked that question is because the majority of the people that I've asked, and I've asked this question to around 30, 40 people now, all of them refer back to a time where they did something silly or amazing with their community.
Yeah.
And that is what made 11 so special.
100%.
That is what made old MMOs so special. It was the community.
I knew I liked you.
New World wants to succeed, it needs to go full in with the community.
Community.
That is something other MMOs aren't doing. 14 doesn't do very well. Well, I've not really jumped into WoW, but I've heard it's hit and miss. But with New World, if they want to succeed, this is something that they need to nail on the head. Because if you've got a great community there where you can build your own guild, and that guild then turns into an extended part of your family where you can just jump in and pretty much just have like a virtual world for yourself to go into and just, lose yourself in.
Yeah.
That is when you find something truly special.
I'm gonna jump in on how they I think they should need to do that. But Bob asked, when's the game come out? So Outriders drops on the 1st of April, and New World drops on the 31st of August. So those are the two release dates in that regards. Thank you, Bob, for the question and being here. So how do they do this? How does New World go from hey, here's a game to here's a community? And I think I think Amazon has the tools to do so. They've already talked about Twitch integration with the game, meaning when you're streaming, you can see that. You can see with somebody else's streaming and things of that nature. Like Twitch and content creation is going to be one part of their strategy, especially as it relates to Twitch. This is Amazon after all. Second piece of that, though, you got to have integrations with Discord. You got to have integrations with friends lists in that regards. The thing that will get somebody to go and log in, let's say I'm playing, a game and we're all like hanging out, whether I see you hit go live or B, like in Discord, I see that you're playing Amazon, you're playing New World. Oh, I might go jump in with you, right? I might not actively be thinking about playing right now, but just the fact that I see Chaos is doing certain things, you got to, and they have the tools and technology. So that needs to be it needs to be integrated with where gamers are. And I would say it needs to have, and make sure that when it launches, it needs to have Discord integration with it. You should not launch a game that if you want to build a community, because you're not going to migrate a community. You're not going to sit here and say, okay, all of our communications all handled on our website and in game. No, people are going to stay where they are. They're going to stay in Discord. They're going to stay on Twitter or whatever the hell, it's like, so you got to help build that community, got to foster where people already are. And the reason I believe that wholeheartedly is Ninja went to Mixer and he couldn't bring anybody over.
Yeah.
It's like, it's hard to take people from one place to the other. Another pointing example and a way to plug myself, Ginger Gaming Radio. Like, we've got over 30,000 subscribers here on Ginger Prime Gaming Radio, almost 2,000. And we usually get about a 1% click through whenever I do that kind of shout out aspect. And that's on anything across the board. And so it takes a lot to say, hey, let's all go from here to here. So if you want that community, stop trying to migrate people. It's not going to work. And that's just my thought. What do you think, Chaos?
No, that's pretty much it. You need to make sure that all the tools are there to enable people to, keep that communication going. Back in the 11 days, it was all in text. Maybe, maybe now it's time to move into voice. And I mean, don't get me wrong, when we used to go to Skype, we still switched to a TeamSpeak back then. Was it TeamSpeak?
TeamSpeak and Ventrilo.
Ventrilo, that's the one, not TeamSpeak. I think it was, I can't remember which one it was, but it was a horrible piece of software. But we used to use that to do our endgame stuff. And, maybe now with the current tech and especially with Discord being a thing and definitely being integratable, maybe that's something that they can look into to jazz it up to the next level.
Yeah, integration's a key, and I think that's one of the things that's why you see in PSO2 and PSO2 New Genesis. It's like, let's stop like putting these walls in front of people and asking them to do something that they're just probably not going to do. Like, let's just meet them where they are. That's probably why we're seeing Microsoft having talks behind Discord. They can't grow it organically. Discord did. Let's just go where the gamers are and let's, build off of that. So we'll have to see that now. Seth says, I got a couple comments and then we'll wrap up the show. And then go about our merry days. I thank everybody for you awesome, magnificent beasts, as I said in my last video, and somebody really liked that. I liked it too. I was like, that's a fun race. Says, couldn't agree more with Chaos. Ask any MMO player their best experience, and it will almost always be tied with playing with their friends and family.
Absolutely.
And that is key. It's, I think it was Destiny. They said, like, it's the friend game. The end game is the friend game. People say glamour is the end game. No, it's about building friends. If you all want to do friendship stuff, dressing up in these games, great. I'm fighting a sneeze.
You can do it, buddy. You can do it.
Be a professional. Where's the mute? But yeah, like, I couldn't agree more. It's about those relationships. And the thing that will make that easy is just getting obstacles out of people's way. And so I think the solutions end up being just get out of people's way and let them, like, if I was on Xbox playing and there's some kind of integration, like with, I see Chaos is signed into New World. Oh, maybe, am I doing anything that I really want? Maybe not. Maybe I'll go jump over there. Same thing with Outriders. I have that friends list coming to Outriders is massive. Now, finally, I guess let's end on the Phoenix asking, do you think Outriders endgames will last? Chaos, what do you think?
It will last a while, but it won't be indefinite. It's not going to, because it's kind of static, if you know what I mean. You've got the 14 expeditions, and the 15th one. So you'll only be doing them over and over again for a set amount of time. Yeah. And there isn't anything after it. If the game is successful and does really well, I assume GamePass is paying for a lot of that success, because that must have cost Microsoft a pretty little penny. There's already talks of them having ideas for expansions, which will provide new stories, new endgame content. And if that's coming, then depending on how soon that arrives, the endgame content and endgame lifecycle can definitely continue. But if it doesn't, and this is a one and done, this game will have a shelf life. It's not going to be like a Destiny type game where it lives on for hundreds and thousands of hours. It just won't be that. And no one should be going into this from the get-go expecting it to be that. At the moment, it has a shelf life with the potential for that shelf life to be expanded quite a bit depending on success.
So I would definitely agree in that regards. I think that you'll find that in the terms of taking the game that exists, you'll see speed running, you'll see all different kinds of ways that people will, and different unique builds, so that there'll be interesting ways that you can kind of challenge it. So if you're playing with friends, it will last much longer in terms of like what you want to get out of it. If you want to go for like clearing all of it, then you will. But essentially the game could technically end with its story. They say, like, as part of it as an RPG, you don't even have to engage in expeditions. You could just play it as an RPG and then decide if you want to keep playing it. And I do think that the expansion model is what we're going to end up seeing here, which actually I think could be a core strength. Imagine if every year, like, there's a big excitement about Outriders. What you would then see happen is that as it builds up to it, as long as your progress and it's all connected. So let's say an expansion comes out, takes the level cap up to 40, brings in a bunch of new legendaries, you would see people coming back to the game prior to the expansion and playing and farming and being excited and making sure they have their build to go into the new content. So we'll ultimately have to wait and see what they decide. I think that the factors are, it depends on sales. I think, yes, Microsoft saw how good the game was. They went and paid a lot of money for it. I think people who have Game Pass win. It's unfortunate that it's not also on Game Pass PC, but I still think there's probably logistics there when it comes down to it.
Yeah, that's probably what it is.
Meaning, like, Destiny is said that it's supposed to be coming to Game Pass PC as well. And we're still, they're still waiting on that news. But at its core, yeah, I think it's, I don't, you got to set that mindset, because otherwise people are going to hop on the train of Outriders population, plummets after 1 month of its release. Okay, yeah, that's expected. Like, that's exactly what the game is. Play it, enjoy it if you enjoy it. Come in, buy it at a discount, play it on Game Pass. Like, they just want you to experience and have a good time with it. And then if you want to take it further, then you can. And if they're going to go ahead and support it in the long run, they're going to have content to keep people coming back. And I think the right model is not to try to keep people artificially playing your game for a year, like with like updates. Just like say, hey, big expansion next spring, we'll see you there. Lots of things to be excited about. Boom. And then obviously patch and kind of minor tweak things that come up or are needed. But I don't know. Like, I mean, I'd love to be wrong. I'd love to be playing Outriders in the fall. I
mean, Remnants did that, right? They just released DLC every year.
Mm-hmm.
But what do you reckon? Halloween, will they have seasonal content? Yes or no? And then we'll come back to this moment.
No.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah, I don't think so. Well, and then, like, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. I would love to be wrong. I'd love to be playing this, and I'd love to be playing a Halloween event for Outriders. That'd be fun. What do you, so we'll have to wait and see. Guys, thanks so much for everybody for being here. Really appreciate everybody hanging out for the podcast. Hopefully you've been enjoying them. I've been enjoying making them. I've been enjoying so many awesome content creators who've come and joined in the fun. But that's going to wrap it up for Epic Loot Radio. I am Brian. That is Chaos. Be sure to go follow him over on YouTube, where he streams, plays all kinds of amazing content. And hopefully we'll see you in our next podcast. But until then, take care.